Last up is a look at the Atlantic Division standings. I don't believe we did it last week, but it's quite definitive in my world. There seems to be three teams that are putting themselves apart from the others. That's Boston. You look atop the standings, they never lose. The Leafs never lose. And Tampa seems to really have found their game since Anthony Cirelli came back 6 games ago. Of course, that game where Toronto lost in overtime on that Alex Killorn winner. How do you feel about Detroit? How do you feel about Florida? Those are probably the two biggest threats in the division. I think Ottawa's cooked. I think Montreal's done. I think Buffalo's done here.
Yeah, once you start looking at Christmas, you start to see some separation between the top and the bottom, and the cream kind of rises to the top. And I think when you look, that Boston team is just, I mean, with the Leafs playing the way they are, you'd think they'd be first in their division and be able to get that wild card spot to play against in the first round. But they're looking like they're continually stuck in that second place, just because, like you said, Boston won't lose. And the thing that always bugs me is those 2 games in hand. They've just been sitting there lingering for months, it seems like, and we want to see where we stack up. I mean, we're 3 points back, but they got 2 games in hand. If they win those, blah, 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 you just don't know what's going to happen. So I really prefer looking at the standings when the games played are evened up, and I don't know when that's going to happen. Boston's schedule must get a little bit hectic here coming up before Christmas, you would hope. But, it's, again, the only thing that bugs me about this Toronto team, and I know they did it last year and had a great season, but, they're very good chance they're going to face Tampa Bay again in the first round. And, Tampa Bay is a really solid team. And I understand your thought process where the regular season doesn't mean anything because it just comes down to that week of playing that first round. And if it's against Tampa Bay and they find their mojo and they get coached up and they're firing all cylinders and they got all their experience from winning cups there, all of a sudden it's like, my God, but all you can do is put yourself in a better position to win that series. And that's all the Leafs have been doing all season long. So I try not to standings watch too much, but I mean, I guess you could say it's a bit frustrating that they have been racking off these wins like that and they're still, a distant second to Boston. But at the end of the day, it's early and you're going to run into really good teams like Boston. And there's a lot of guys, vying for that top spot in the league. And all you can do is put yourself in the best position. That's what the Leafs have been doing. It's just, I don't know if they're going to catch them or not. Something's going to give for both teams here. And whether it happens at the same time or not, they could flip flop a little bit, but Boston sure just won't lose.
The way I see it for Toronto, just get in. Like, I could care less who they play, whether it's Tampa, Florida, Boston. Like, I think they've shown over the last couple of years they could lose to anybody. Columbus, Montreal. I understand the pandemic was a thing, and I'm not trying to make a joke of it. Like, I really don't think it matters who you play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. At some point in time, you're going to have to go through them, whether it's Tampa, whether it's Boston. So I rather they prepare themselves. I think if they're not going to win first, at the very least, you have to lock down home ice. I think more times than not, hasn't worked out in their favor, of course, but you want game 7 on home ice, correct?
Yeah, definitely. You want to lock that down. That's huge. You want to start your first 2 games at home and give yourself, that advantage as far as getting up in the series and being in the driver's seat.